Do you feel like your mind has become a hostile territory, invaded by disturbing thoughts that seem to come from nowhere? Are you exhausted from battling unwanted mental images, worries, or ideas that feel completely foreign to who you know yourself to be? Does it feel like your own brain has turned against you, generating content that shocks, disgusts, or terrifies you? If these words resonate with your experience, take a deep breath and know this: you are not losing your mind, you are not dangerous, and you are not alone. What you're experiencing, intrusive thoughts, affects millions of people worldwide, and more importantly, there are proven pathways to reclaim your mental peace. What I'm about to share isn't theoretical comfort or empty reassurance. These are evidence-based strategies that have helped countless individuals transform their relationship with unwanted thoughts from one of terror and resistance to one of understanding and freedom. In the next few minutes, you'll discover how to break the cycle of intrusive thoughts, not by eliminating them entirely, but by learning to respond to them in ways that drain their power and restore your sense of mental safety. This is your roadmap from mental chaos to genuine inner calm. The intrusive thought paradox: understanding your unwanted mental visitors. Let's dive deep into a crucial truth that will change the way you understand your mind and your experience with unwanted thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are not messages. From your subconscious, they are not prophecies about your future behavior, nor are they signs of some deep hidden desire that you haven't yet acknowledged. In fact, intrusive thoughts are random mental events that naturally arise in every healthy mind. Some brains, however, get stuck on these thoughts, replaying them over and over again as if they hold some significant meaning. The truth is, they don't. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a radio. It's constantly scanning different frequencies, trying to tune into channels you want to listen to. Most of the time, it locks into the channels you're consciously aware of: your work tasks, your interactions with people, your pleasant memories from the past, or your thoughts about the future. These are the thoughts you intentionally focus on or enjoy. You can think of these as your chosen programming, the thoughts that guide your day and give you direction and purpose. But occasionally, just like a radio might unintentionally pick up random static, a foreign broadcast or a disturbing emergency signal from a distant tower, your mind picks up something that doesn't belong. These are your intrusive thoughts, random, fleeting, and unwanted mental blips that disrupt your usual programming. They don't reflect your real desires, your true personality, or your intentions. They are just mental noise, much like a random station your radio stumbles upon while scanning through the airwaves. The problem isn't the thoughts themselves, it's not the static that's the issue. The real issue begins when we mistakenly interpret these random mental events as something deeply meaningful, personal, or significant. When you start thinking that these thoughts are messages from your subconscious or a sign of something hidden, you give them power. You react emotionally as though they are important when in fact they're not. Let's take a closer look at how this dynamic unfolds. Imagine you have an intrusive thought. Perhaps it's disturbing, or perhaps it's just something you don't want to think about. Instead of letting it pass like a fleeting moment, you react with fear, disgust, shame, or confusion. This emotional response is where things start to spiral. Here's where things go wrong. When you react with strong emotions, you inadvertently crank up the volume on that random thought. It's like turning the radio dial in frustration. But instead of changing the channel, you only make the static louder. The more you resist, the more you try to suppress these thoughts, the more attention your brain gives them. Your mind believes that the thought is important because you're reacting so strongly to it. This reinforces the idea that the thought requires constant monitoring, and before you know it, you're stuck in a cycle of obsession. This cycle becomes an exhausting loop. Intrusive thought. A random, unwanted thought pops into your head, something odd, disturbing, or confusing. Intense reaction. You feel a surge of discomfort, fear, or shame in response to the thought. Increased attention. Your brain, sensing that this thought is emotionally charged, focuses even more on it, trying to figure it out or make sense of it. More intrusive thoughts. Because you're putting more attention on the thought, it becomes more frequent, more persistent, and harder to shake off. Now, Here's where the breakthrough happens. The thought itself isn't the problem. What truly matters is how you respond to the thought. Your relationship with the thought is the key to breaking free from the cycle. When you can accept that these intrusive thoughts are simply random occurrences, like unwanted static on a radio, without attaching any meaning or judgment to them, their power over you begins to fade. The more you try to push them away or fight against them, the more energy you give them and the stronger they become. But when you stop emotionally reacting to them, when you just let them be, observing them as they come and go, you break the cycle. It's like letting that random radio station fade out of your awareness until it's no longer interfering with your chosen programming. True freedom doesn't come from eliminating the thoughts. It comes from changing how you relate to them. Instead of getting tangled up in the thoughts, you can learn to notice them, to observe them, and to let them pass without getting caught up in their emotional charge. This is where the shift in perspective occurs. When you stop viewing these thoughts as dangerous or meaningful, they become nothing more than passing mental blips, temporary interruptions that lose their power over time. The more you practice this, the more you realize that they don't define you, nor do they have any lasting impact on your life. By changing your relationship with intrusive thoughts, you can break free from the exhausting cycle of worry, shame, and obsession. This newfound perspective opens the door to mental peace. Instead of feeling constantly distracted by unwanted thoughts, you can refocus your attention on what truly matters: your goals, your relationships, your passions, and your life's purpose. And when those thoughts come back, as they inevitably will, you'll be able to greet them with a sense of calm detachment, knowing that they are just passing mental visitors and nothing more. So, the next time an intrusive thought pops into your mind, take a deep breath. Recognize it for what it is: a random thought that doesn't deserve your emotional investment. Let it pass like a fleeting moment and return to the things that truly matter to you. That's where your freedom lies, in your ability to choose how you relate to your thoughts and how much energy you give them. By changing this relationship, you can experience a life that is less defined by mental noise and more focused on what truly brings you peace and joy. And that's the real breakthrough: the neuroscience of unwanted thoughts. Why your brain does this. Intrusive thoughts aren't a sign of mental illness or moral failing. They're actually evidence of a normally functioning brain with an overactive security system. Your mind constantly generates thousands of thoughts per day, including random, bizarre, or disturbing content that most brains automatically dismiss without conscious awareness. However, certain factors can make your brain's filtering system hypersensitive. Stress and anxiety. When your nervous system is heightened, your brain becomes hypervigilant, noticing and flagging mental content that would normally slip by unnoticed. Perfectionism. If you hold yourself to impossibly high moral or mental standards, any imperfect thought becomes a source of alarm rather than normal mental noise. Rumination. Patterns. The habit of analyzing and reanalyzing thoughts gives random mental events more weight and attention than they deserve. Life transitions. Major changes. Trauma or periods of uncertainty can make your brain more likely to produce and focus on disturbing content as it attempts to process stress. Understanding that intrusive thoughts are a normal brain function gone slightly awry, not a character, flaw or mental breakdown, is the first step toward healing your relationship with your own mind. If this message resonates with you, and you're seeking more moments of peace and insight, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for daily reflections rooted in ancient wisdom and modern clarity. The WAVE method, your 5-step strategy for navigating intrusive thoughts. When intrusive thoughts strike, it's easy to fall into one of two common traps. Either you panic and try to fight against them, or you become consumed by trying to analyze what they mean. Unfortunately, both of these responses only fuel the cycle of unwanted thoughts, making them harder to ignore and more distressing. The WAVE method offers a better, more effective approach, a way to let unwanted thoughts pass through your awareness without getting swept away by them. By learning to engage with intrusive thoughts in a mindful, calm way, you can regain control over your mental landscape and stop letting these thoughts dominate your life. Here's how it works, step by step. Watch. I notice an unwanted thought has appeared. The first step in the wave method is simply noticing the thought without immediately reacting to it. When an intrusive thought arises, instead of diving into panic or immediately questioning it, just observe it. This act of observation helps you create psychological distance between yourself and the thought. Think of this step as simply acknowledging, there's that thought again, without any judgment or self-criticism. You don't need to analyze or interpret it, just see it as a natural, neutral event happening in your mind. The goal here is to create enough space between you and the thought so that you don't identify with it or let it become part of your story. This awareness is powerful. When you learn to recognize intrusive thoughts as nothing more than passing mental events, like clouds drifting across the sky, you can begin to feel more in control of your mental environment. It's no longer about the thought itself, but about how you choose to relate to it. Allow. This thought can be here without me believing it or acting on it. Now that you've noticed the thought, the next step is to allow it to exist without feeling the need to push it away or attach any meaning to it. This is where many people get stuck. They try to fight the thought, resist it, or immediately try to suppress it. However, research shows that resisting thoughts only makes them stronger. The more you try to fight or avoid a thought, the more likely it is to linger and intensify. Instead, give the thought permission to exist. This doesn't mean you agree with it or give it any power over you. It simply means you allow it to be there without attaching any significance to it. In essence, you're telling yourself, this thought is here, but it doesn't need my belief or action to stay. I don't have to do anything about it. By allowing the thought to be there without reacting to it, you break the cycle of fear and resistance. This act of acceptance is liberating because it frees you from the need to control your thoughts. You start to realize that thoughts are just like waves. They come and go, and you don't need to hold on to them. Value. What do I actually care about in this situation? What kind of person do I want to be? The third step is to reconnect with your values, the things that truly matter to you in life. When intrusive thoughts arise, they often pull your attention away from what's important to you, leading you into a spiral of mental noise. But by grounding yourself in your values, you can regain your focus and regain a sense of purpose. This step, ask yourself, what do I care about in this situation? What kind of person do I want to be? What is most important to me right now? By reflecting on your values, you are making a conscious choice about what deserves your attention and energy. For example, if you value kindness, you might choose to focus on how you can be kind to yourself, despite the intrusive thought. If you value creativity, you might focus on engaging in a creative activity that aligns with your passions, instead of getting caught up in mental analysis. Reconnecting with your values helps you shift your focus from the unwanted thought to the actions and mindset that align with the person you want to be. This is about refocusing your energy on what matters to you and not letting mental noise dictate your actions. Engage. What action aligns with my values right now? Once you've identified what you care about and what aligns with your core values, it's time to take purposeful action. The WAVE method encourages you to engage with life in a meaningful way, rather than getting lost in the analysis of the intrusive thought. Ask yourself, what action can I take right now that aligns with the person I want to be? This action can be small, like taking a deep breath or shifting your attention to something productive, or it could be larger, like reaching out to a friend for support or engaging in a creative project. The point is that by taking action that reflects your values, you stop the cycle of mental analysis and start moving toward something concrete and meaningful. When you direct your attention toward meaningful behavior, you're signaling to your brain that there are more important things to focus on than the intrusive thought. This action helps reinforce your sense of control and keeps you grounded in the present moment. Bonus. Expand. How can I continue to practice this approach in future situations? This additional step isn't part of the WAVE acronym itself, but it can be incredibly helpful. Once you've practiced the method a few times, start reflecting on how you can continue to strengthen this habit. For example, practice self-compassion. Be patient with yourself when the method doesn't work perfectly. Reaffirm your values. Regularly remind yourself of what you truly care about so that it's easier to focus on them during moments of distress. Engage in mindful practices. Activities like meditation, deep breathing, or yoga can help you get more comfortable with observing your thoughts and cultivating a calm, centered presence. The transformation. From victim to master of your thoughts by using the wave method, you transform yourself from a victim of random mental events to someone who can navigate intrusive thoughts with wisdom and calm. You learn not to react out of fear or desperation, but instead respond in a mindful and deliberate way. You regain control over your mental space, choosing to focus on what truly matters to you rather than getting caught in the constant churn of mental noise. This shift in perspective is empowering because it allows you to reclaim your life and your peace, even in the presence of unwanted thoughts. The more you practice the wave method, the more effortless it becomes to let these thoughts come and go without being swept away by them. Over time, you'll experience a sense of mental freedom, where you can stay connected to your core values, focus on meaningful actions, and live your life with greater peace of mind. Common types of intrusive thoughts. You're not alone in this. Intrusive thoughts often fall into predictable categories, and recognizing these patterns can help normalize your experience. Harm-related thoughts. Sudden images or ideas about hurting yourself or others, despite having no actual desire to cause harm. These thoughts are often the complete opposite of your values, which is exactly why they feel so disturbing. Contamination concerns. Fears about germs, diseases, or being polluted by certain substances or situations, even when rational mind knows the fears are exaggerated. Relationship doubts. Sudden questions about whether you love your partner, whether they love you, or disturbing thoughts about infidelity, despite being in a happy relationship. Religious or moral scrupulosity. Disturbing thoughts about sacred topics, moral violations, or fears of being evil, particularly common in people with strong ethical or religious values. Sexual content. Unwanted. Sexual thoughts or images, often involving inappropriate partners, situations, or acts that go against your actual desires and values. Responsibility fears. Obsessive worry about having caused harm through negligence. Did I hit someone with my car? Did I leave the stove on, even when you know you were careful? The crucial point, the content of intrusive thoughts is often completely opposite to your actual character and desires. This isn't coincidence. Your brain often generates disturbing content precisely because it violates your values, making it feel urgent and important to consider. The acceptance revolution. Why fighting makes it worse. Here's a counterintuitive truth that liberates thousands of people. The more you fight intrusive thoughts, the stronger they become. This happens because of a psychological principle called the ironic process theory. When you try not to think about something, part of your brain must continuously monitor whether you're successfully not thinking about it. It's like someone telling you, don't think about a pink elephant. The moment you try to follow that instruction, you must think about pink elephants to know what not to think about. Instead of fighting intrusive thoughts, try this radical approach, complete acceptance. I notice I'm having the thought about, this is just my brain producing random content. I don't need to fight it, analyze it, or make it go away. It can be here while I focus on what actually matters to me. This isn't giving up or giving in. It's choosing not to waste your precious mental energy on content that has no real significance. When you stop feeding intrusive thoughts with attention and resistance, they naturally fade into the background noise of consciousness where they belong. The values compass, navigating by what matters most. One of the most powerful tools for dealing with intrusive thoughts is developing a clear sense of your authentic values. When disturbing thoughts arise, instead of asking, "What does this thought mean about me?" ask, "What do I actually care about? How do I want to show up in this moment?" Your values act as a compass that always points toward meaningful action, regardless of what temporary mental weather you're experiencing. If you value kindness, You can choose kind actions even while having unkind thoughts. If you value courage, you can behave bravely even while feeling afraid. Create a personal values statement. I am someone who cares about authentically. Then, when intrusive thoughts try to convince you otherwise, return to this truth. Regardless of what my brain is producing right now, I know what I actually value and I can act from that place. This transforms intrusive thoughts from identity threats into minor inconveniences, like having a song stuck in your head. Annoying perhaps, but completely irrelevant to who you are and how you choose to live. Daily practices for mental freedom. Morning intention setting. Start each day by setting an intention to treat all thoughts, wanted and unwanted, as temporary mental events rather than important messages. The leaves on a stream. Visualization. When intrusive thoughts arise, imagine them as leaves floating down a stream. You can watch them pass by without jumping in the water to chase them. Mindful labeling. When you notice an intrusive thought, simply label it. I'm having an unwanted thought about tuka, or my brain is producing disturbing content right now. This creates distance and reduces emotional impact. The 10-second rule. When an intrusive thought appears, commit to doing nothing about it for 10 seconds. Don't analyze, suppress, or react. Just notice and wait. Often, the thought will lose intensity or disappear entirely. Value-based action. Each time you choose to act according to your values despite having intrusive thoughts, you're strengthening your ability to live authentically, regardless of mental noise. Gratitude for mental variety. Paradoxically, appreciate your brain's creativity, even when it produces unwanted content. This reduces the shame and resistance that fuel intrusive thought cycles.